Welcome to Hopeland. Today's episode is about conspiracy theories and why we like them so much. Engaging microphones and powering on presenters.
Welcome to Hopeland.
She's good, isn't she?
She is good. I like her. She's my favourite. She's called Abby.
Is she? She's a bit bossy. I'm a bit scared of her, if I'm honest. Do you know, talking about being scared,
Yeah.
do you know when we did the Monster Shop, we had a sheet?
Yes, we did have a sheet.
And I had a bit of, and in my head, I thought I had a bit of a plan about what we were going to do.
Yep.
And we don't with this.
No.
And I'm finding that I'm getting a bit more anxious.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm kind of, what if I can't think of anything to say?
I think you of all people in the world.
I'm like, what?
You'll be good with that, mate.
What if I can't? What if I've got nothing to talk about? What if my brain? Does your brain never just like check out?
Yeah.
Like,
what happens if you forget how to breathe? That sort of thing.
yeah, sometimes, and this happens when somebody's explaining something I find boring. My brain just wanders off. It's like, no, I'm just going to go and do, just like birds tweeting or something in my brain.
They're not even real anyway.
Yeah, well, no, birds are not real. But yeah, no, I genuinely.
Yeah.
The thing what if?
Yeah.
What if? Because it might happen.
Yeah. Might happen.
Probably not today.
Not today. This is a good subject today.
It is. We're going to talk about conspiracy theories,
Yep.
and I can't remember why we're going to do it.
We said a few weeks ago. I even think this started back in the Monster Shop era that we started talking about this sort of stuff in one of the shows, and we would say, "Oh, we got to do a show about conspiracy or a talky bit about this at some point."
Yeah.
And obviously, Spotify pulled the plug on our world domination plans for Monster Shop, so we've got to try a new one now with Hopeland.
Spotify. But I would say classically trained in science.
Yes.
And maths mostly, but that it gets drummed into you, right, about how to do science. And science is all based in proof and logic, and there's a process to it. And I've embraced critical thinking in the last sort of 5 years or so. I even kind of teach it. But at my heart, I'm a Fox Mulder. I want to believe.
I'm totally there. Yeah,
I love it. The problem,
yeah.
what happens with me is I find I get into this. So we were talking about the pyramids a minute ago.
Yeah.
And
I love the pyramids. Stargate.
Yeah. What I think is I love about these things is I'll see one and I think, oh, that's really fascinating.
SeaWorld DSV. Remember that one?
I do.
Sorry.
Stargate was one of my favourites, to be honest.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah,
SG-1 or the film.
SG-1. I like the series.
That had Jason Momoa in. He was in it.
Did it?
Yeah, he was in it.
I didn't know that.
He was. He was very young at the time.
He would have been, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
But so anyway, I see the conspiracy theory and I think, oh, I like that idea.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then because it reminds me of Fox Mulder, and I kind of think, you spooky Mulder, and I think that's going to be great. And then I look at it, and then without fail, usually within 10 minutes of actually looking at it, you think this is rubbish. How have you got from? Do you know what I mean? How have you got from this idea to like aliens or whatever?
Yeah.
Right? And I just get really frustrated because I kind of want it to be. Do you know what I mean? I kind of really want somebody.
Well up for aliens.
I do. I want
Independence Day.
I do. I want aliens. I want.
But you said the word Jeremy Corbyn aliens, like the nice ones, the ones that look after you, the ones that are
benevolent.
Here, they're here to build civilization, not the ones that come down through the clouds and then
just kill everybody
and just lasers. Yeah.
And then everyone's dead. They're the best. Isn't that scary? That what was it? My brain's gone. What is the one? The recent one with the guy I can't remember his name in it.
This is great. This is brilliant.
This is brilliant. Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
War
of the Worlds.
War of the Worlds. that is really scary because they're kind of spooky, and it's also that noise.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and that's scary.
Yeah.
I like that.
I saw War of the Worlds in live. When they did that surround experience.
Oh yeah. Where'd you see that then?
Birmingham NEC, I think it was.
The IMAX
or NIA, was it? Anyway, I was sat next to the speaker, so I didn't get any surround effects at all. I just got the speaker.
I bet the boo was really good though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No, I do like that, and I wish we could have aliens. I do genuinely want to have aliens, but I think that there's like a burden of proof.
Yes.
That you can't just invent them. You can't just go. Well, I'd say you can't. You can just go on YouTube and say the pyramids are really tidy. It was aliens. Do you know what I mean? That's what they did, isn't it? I watched a brilliant one. I watched a brilliant conspiracy theory about the pyramids, and I was with the dude all the way up. He was talking about how they're perfectly aligned and how they're really, really orderly, and how everything was really precise. And I was totally with the dude all the way up to the point that he went from something was like tidy and nicely made.
Yeah.
To aliens, and with no steps in between, 0 steps in between, just straight from this is really nicely made.
Humans aren't that good.
Yeah, it's like somebody saying, "Oh, the iPhone's really tidy."
Yeah,
aliens. Yeah, I mean, dude, there's some steps in between. It might be aliens. I mean, I'm not saying it wasn't aliens, but I
wanted to be aliens.
Yeah, they'd be great, wouldn't they?
Yeah. I was going to say something about this. Oh, Stonehenge. Because no one knows.
No.
People just make stuff up.
Yeah, I love things like that.
It's like a big speaker in the ground, oscillating.
I liked the one.
People go into trances.
Isn't there something on the other side of the world? Isn't there something?
Oh, is there?
Yeah, isn't there something on?
So it's like Easter Island heads and then their legs.
Yeah. I love all that kind of stuff. The best thing about Stonehenge.
Stonehenge. You've got to say it like that.
Stonehenge is Spinal Tap.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly.
That is just without shadow of a doubt the best thing. That scene where they're getting dead excited about it, and then the tiny little
dwarfs go out and do the dancing.
The tiny little thing gets lowered down, and that's just I love Spinal Tap.
What was his name? The man who did that, Christopher. Oh, he's done so much good stuff.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No,
I do love it.
remember.
It's one of the things that I watch if I'm really sad. That's Spinal Tap. You know, like girls watch Bridget Jones?
Yes, Spinal Tap.
I watch Spinal Tap, and I love it.
Did you ever see Spinal Tap 2?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think so.
The best thing in Spinal Tap 2 was, he had all his inventions that he did.
Yeah.
And he had one, it was like a folding down wine glass.
Right, yeah,
It just wine fell out.
Yeah.
The best one was the amp capo. It was, mate, it was brilliant. It was so good. So his thing was, you put the capo around the amp.
Yeah.
And then as you pull the capo up, the pitch gets higher.
On the amp. Oh my God.
Yeah, it was great.
But yeah, no, I like that. We've done some research this week, haven't we?
Well, yes. You sent the video links.
I did.
And I watched all of them until the one that was 6 hours.
Oh, was one of them 6 hours?
Yeah.
Which one was? Oh, that was the Flat Earth one, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I didn't watch that one.
I didn't watch that one. We started with
the moon landings.
The moon landings. Now, the moon landings is I
love the guide's delivery. We should probably put the YouTube link in the show notes.
Yeah, no,
maybe.
we should do. Yeah. So the moon landings one it goes back a long way for me. This does. I bought a book about the moon landings. I was on holiday in Norfolk.
Yeah.
And one of my favourite bookshops is in Cromer, and they had it. It said something. I can't remember the name. It's on my bookshelf at home. I should remember it. But it said something like, like NASA fools the world, or something like that. And I just thought, this is just fascinating. Like, kind of. And anyway, so I got it and I read through it, and reading the book, it's just so believable.
Really?
And you can totally understand how people get sucked into it.
Yeah.
And it shows evidence, and it's really factually written. So it's kind of quite dry. It's written in this, it's not, it's not like over the top. It's not kind of, oh my God, it's all terrible. It's not aliens. It's all just,
There's a rock with a C on it, all that sort of stuff.
All of that stuff. And it was really weird. And I found myself thinking, oh wow, this is absolutely true. It must be true. But then as soon as you scratch beneath the surface and check like any of the claims, they're all false. Like every single one is like really easily provable as false. The C rock is brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely awesome.
So there's a rock with a letter C on it, which
and they're saying it's like a prop, and it's staged, and you, like prop hands would ordinarily letter them, so they know where to put them.
And they use that as proof to say that it's been done in Area 51.
Yes,
because if you're going to have a conspiracy theory,
it's got to be Area 51.
And they had a big film crew there. But then when you look at the original NASA photographs, there's no C on them, and
it's probably a hair.
Probably a hair.
But it's been duplicated that many times through the media.
Yeah,
people have attributed that to the real image.
It's bonkers, isn't it?
It's just someone's hair maybe got on the slide or something.
And that was the same thing. So some of the other pictures, they say that the picture's a picture of Buzz Aldrin.
Oh, and it's really well lit.
It's beautifully lit, and it looks fantastic.
And they're like, that's a spotlight. There's no way.
There's no way it can be done. But then when you look at the original NASA pictures, it's flat and miserable.
Someone's just
edited it in Photoshop for the press.
To make it look better, to make it look more dramatic.
But then there's other things in there, isn't there, where it talks about so it talks about in
the
some
flag
of the,
is the one, isn't it?
The
waving flag with the air. It's just got stuff. It's just got a rod on it to hold it up.
But then you can see between some of the frames that the flag's not moving.
No.
Which I think is a bit bonkers. But it is one of those things though where it's like. And we'll come on to talk about this a little bit for the JFK thing because we looked at that as well.
Yeah.
I think it's almost this. It's actually got nothing to do with the moon. It's got nothing to do with whether people believed you could land on the moon. It's this reacting against authority. Like NASA is seen as authority. NASA is seen as, So if you had a rough time through school, and you were told you were stupid your entire life, and yet you can find, if you can find your teachers made a mistake.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That gives you power, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I kind of think a lot of this stuff is that. It's kind of...
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, hey, I've caught you out kind of thing. You think you're cleverer than me. You told me I was stupid my entire life, but I've caught you out because your flag was moving and you got a little C on your rock. Do you know what I mean? And it's a bit...
you're not that clever, actually.
I'm convinced. And I'm not all of it. The JFK conspiracy... is a bit different, I think.
Yeah.
But I think in general, certainly the moon landing one, for me, it's just, I don't know.
Did you watch the Shadow of the Moon? That sort of it was like a film, but it was a documentary.
That was the name of the book.
Oh, was it?
That was the name of the book, Shadow of the Moon, yeah.
Right. Well, the film, it was a Ron Howard film.
And
it was interviews with all of the astronauts.
Yeah.
And this idea was posed of like, what do you think about people calling this thing a hoax and that, you're all actors and all that sort of stuff. And the guy was really, like, if you have seen what I've seen, if you have been where I've been, it's ridiculous. And it was talking about this idea of like putting the entire world behind his thumb.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden everything that he ever has known has disappeared. And one of them had a very kind of like spiritual experience and this sort of oneness with the universe and this idea of finding, like a sort of God mechanism amidst the universe while standing on the moon, and had had that kind of, and he said, and his thing was, this is really interesting because I might have melded two things together there, and that's a big conspiracy theory thing. But this idea that if you would have seen what I have seen, you might have experienced something like that and realised how beautiful the universe is. That was the gist of what he was kind of getting at.
Yeah.
But that brings me on to another thing to do with memory.
Right.
And I've got that thing going on, a few things that I've been recalling recently about when I was younger, and the 9/11 one, which we'll talk about, there's something about that as well. And I think you create reality in history and you create memories. And I think that sometimes, as well as the middle finger to the authorities, actually there's just a little bit of human creativity and mismanagement of memories that comes into play.
Yeah, you're probably right to some degree. I do think that it's fascinating to me that like civilization, like humanity, achieved the most amazing thing, and you put men on the moon way before we should have been able to.
Yeah, absolutely. It was operating by calculators.
I mean, when you go back and look at what they managed to achieve. I mean, we put a probe back on the moon. Was it last week before? Landed on its side, fell over, broken. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we're going to put so Artemis is back on the moon this year, this May. And there's a very real chance that we're going to kill a bunch of people, right? I mean, it's not. There's no guarantee that it's all going to work beautifully. But I love the fact that we did it, and a big chunk of the population just went, no, you didn't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love it. I just think that there are things that make humanity amazing to me.
Yeah,
and that's one of them. And we'll talk about this right at the end of the show. I'm desperately going to try and remember to talk about this. But as much as we're going to make fun of conspiracy theories, I think there's a positive thing to it. But,
It's really interesting you've said that, because there's a couple of things I want to talk about as we go through. So
nice.
That was one of them. That meant that management of memories thing, but it's the 9/11 one that I really want.
Well, shall we talk on? Let's talk about 9/11 one.
Yeah,
because I think the 9/11 one again is really interesting.
Yeah.
In that, for me, the 9/11 one, which is that it was essentially staged to allow America to go and invade Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yes,
and
for oil.
Yeah, for oil.
For oil, of which there isn't any in
No.
Afghanistan. That was the bit on that video that got me. I was like, I didn't even, because I was totally there. I was like, when when all that was being spoken about, and we had this, I was like, they're just doing it for oil. They just want to bomb and then take all the oil. There's no oil in Afghanistan.
But then it's also the gold. So there was a load of gold that was just,
right.
It's like, oh, we'll move the gold out, and then loads of stock market stuff as well. And on first glance, you think, oh yeah, actually, this is a little bit, it's all a little bit. But then you take a look at it, and I think it was United Airlines stock price. Loads of people were doing put options, so they're gambling that it's going to go down.
Yeah,
like on the day and the day before, right? They're kind of really starting to, a lot more than you'd expect, and only on United, which on the surface you think, there's something weird going on here. People know something, but then a few days before they announced huge losses.
Yes. Yeah.
And the business wasn't working very well. So you think, well, okay, that's probably a bit rubbish. And then, like most of the other things, where there
was one about the explosives, wasn't there? And it's like the stuff that the material they're talking about, which is the controlled explosion.
Yeah,
stuff.
the thermite.
That's
stuff.
not. That doesn't do. That's not what it does.
It doesn't. It just burns slowly, doesn't it? And then they said, why did they let? Is it World Trade Center 7?
Yeah.
But why did they let that burn?
Yeah.
And the conspiracy theory is that. That wasn't that where the gold was?
Yeah, that's it. So they shipped some of it out a few days before.
Yeah, so they wanted it. They wanted it to absolutely get destroyed. So there was no evidence. And they could say, "Oh, well, all the gold's gone." And then they've kept all the gold. Yeah. But actually, it was the mayor's decision, because he just watched all the firefighters get killed in World Trade Center 1 and 2.
Yes.
So and basically was just like, no more deaths. Yeah. I'm not having any more of these deaths. Right. We just leave it to burn, and we'll figure it out later. And I can get behind that. I can imagine that being a real thing.
And the other bit was to do with the all the Jews stayed at home that day. That was the
it's always the Jews. Always, I do.
Most of there's lots of Jewish stuff, isn't there? In conspiracy theories,
I love this kind of this. Oh, it's the Jews' fault.
Yeah.
I mean, like, what did? On a big chat group, on a big WhatsApp group.
Yeah.
Worldwide Jews.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's some things to me just sound. All you got to do is sit 4 people in a room and get them to agree on a pizza. Yeah. Right. Do that. And then tell me that like millions of Jews are all going to agree that like killing thousands of people is fine. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Honestly, just get 4 people to agree on olives or pineapple. Then come back and tell me that this is one of the underlying principles that I really struggle with all conspiracy theories. When if you've ever tried to get people to agree on something, especially, I mean, pizza's one thing, right? But if you try and get some people to agree on anything important that they've got a bias in, or they really a vested interest in, they can't do it. 3 or 4 people and that's it. You can't. You just not going to happen. No. So the thought that you're going to get thousands, millions of people to agree on something, I think is just laughable. It's just not going to happen. Yeah. And if you want to test it, get 4 of your friends and all agree whether to have olives or not on your pizza. So what were we talking about?
That was 9/11.
9/11. Yeah. So there's
layers to that, isn't there?
There are,
because that's the other bit is what you have is the conspiracy theories that are about one thing, and then the conspiracy theories that are about another thing, and then sometimes they don't agree. Yeah. So you get this kind of like sub. Groups. Yeah. You do. Yeah.
The people's
this is happening with the Fred the Head thing.
Oh, this is the body in Burton-on-Trent that was found without the head. Same
thing. You've got these.
Or was it just a head that was found?
No, it's a body. But it was a bit of the head that they saw. The head,
that's it.
And there's different groups that are creating different realities around what they believe that story to be.
Like splinter groups.
Yeah. And you have like different camps.
And
they, and there's no objective truth.
No.
But everyone's got like their version of events and the evidence that they've found to back up their side of the story and
made up.
Yeah.
I love the People's Front of Judea and the Judea
The
People's
People's
Front. Just yeah.
But I tell you what, they did, didn't they? Python and Spinal Tap, I think between them, had humanity just about sussed.
Just nailed it, didn't it? Absolutely nailed it. But you're right. With 9/11, I think I think it gets quite tricky because I think of what happened, and then the lives, right? So the lives that were lost on the day, and then the lives that were lost in the decades afterwards, while Bush waged war in sandy places, right?
Yeah. And there's still that bit of like, why Iraq? You know, just like suddenly, Iraq now. You know that thing, isn't it?
It's a bit bonkers. Although I do think, again, we talked about it at the beginning, but I kind of think that actually there was this was the reaction against Bush.
Yeah,
because you don't hear
the authority thing.
You don't hear 9/11 conspiracies so much anymore. Do you remember was it Loose Change?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, there was a really big 9/11 conspiracy. I'm sure it was called Loose Change. And there's a couple of them, and they were big, they were huge. They were getting millions of views and stuff on YouTube and stuff. And it just kind of all started to disappear
when
the politicians changed in
That's really
the
interesting.
US. And I think tons of it was just this reaction against Bush. It was like, it wasn't necessarily about the events of the day. It was the reaction against George Bush.
And the thing is that when it came to Trump, you couldn't really do that because Trump did do that. a lot of the things, like, you know, you'd have a conspiracy about him inciting violence at the he did.
You can't. He's not spoofable. You know, everyone trying to. If you notice anybody who does any spoofs or anything like comical about Trump, it's about his silly hair, or that is like a little bit fat, or that is a bit silly, but all of it is like it's so like overdone. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of extreme kind of
like a caricature.
Because he is. He just is so funny. If he wasn't in charge of it, if he wasn't in charge of anything important, he'd be brilliant. I love him. But he just is, and that's the bit where you kind of, that nihilistic brain. My brain latches on. I love the kind of the destruction, and I just love
carnage.
I love that kind of chaos. And so my brain's in this kind of radical state whenever I see Trump. And I just think, he's my favourite, brilliant, he's amazing. Just, say something silly. Go on, do it. Go on, say something silly. Say something really outlandish. Go and offend somebody.
He's the memes, isn't he?
He is.
He's like the scrolling memes, but he's like the real life one.
But then brain's going, but like,
he's got the buttons.
Yeah, and like thousands or millions of people are going to be. And then to my brain's in this, it's like being electrocuted. It's kind of like one of it's going like, it's kind of Beavis and Butthead going, go on, and then the other bit's going, that's not very kind, is it? Well, no, it's not very kind. I feel a bit sad now. I feel a bit guilty. And then you're like, go on, do I say it? Call him something. And so I'm not. He's going to be president again, isn't he? And I'm not looking forward to it.
Is he really? Is he coming round?
He's coming back.
Is it because he's 3 years younger than the other one?
Yeah, the other one. Yeah, but although somebody told me that. What's the? Oh God, what is? My brain's gone again. What's the lady Obama's wife called?
Oh yeah, Michelle. Yeah,
apparently she is going to come back as well. I liked her. She was good. I saw her talk once I was in the States, and she was talking, and I liked her. And I have no idea what her politics are.
No.
But I'm pretty sure she's not up for being rude and homophobic. and so I think she might be better for the country, but she's going to be a lot less fun.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's 9/11.
Yeah. And I mean, we could do the presidential link and jump to the JFK thing.
One. JFK. I didn't know anything about the JFK. So the JFK conspiracy.
Yeah. Is it a government inside job again?
Government, it is. So it's basically that Lee Harvey Oswald was the guy that they put in prison for. Well, they put in prison. He was the guy that they said done it.
Yeah.
He was the guy. He's.
Oh yes, the whole Grassy Knoll thing, Red Dwarf episode. On this.
Because
he shot himself.
I love. Red Dwarf did it.
Yeah. We've nailed it. Right, Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
Red Dwarf. And Monty Python, and I think we've
just covered everything. But so the JFK conspiracy is that Lee Harvey Oswald. The claim was that Lee Harvey Oswald was the sole shooter. Right? He was the guy. They found 3
because he shot from a building.
Gun case. Yeah, found 3 shell casings.
Yeah.
But then that meant that, but there were 7 wounds in the car.
Yes.
And they said that that's because the bullet kind of went through one and then through another and then into another and then, did a whole zigzag.
Yeah.
But there was never like any evidence.
Yeah.
So they always said there was only one shooter.
Yeah.
But then whenever they looked for any more evidence, lots of evidence had been like removed or destroyed or whatever.
And there is always that line around there was a mystery second shooter, wasn't there?
Yeah. Now, for me, this is one of the I guess the most believable conspiracy theories, I think, because it's kind of not aliens. It's not like somebody's jumped and said, there was 3 gun shell casings, 7 wounds. Aliens.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There was like a...
There'll be one somewhere. Yeah, there will be one somewhere.
It was Red Dwarf. But they the conspiracy theory is just that, hey, and for most of the conspiracy, when you... I mean, to be honest, until this afternoon, I didn't know anything about this.
No, yeah.
And as I read about it this afternoon, what I read from most of what would be the conspiracy theorists, they're all saying... there's just been no effort to find the second shooter, and all of the formal reviews and documents and reports that were created, all of them just say, well, it was only one shooter. No point does anyone say, oh, well, we think we need to, we're discounting that there was a second shooter because of, do you know what I mean? There was just none of that happening at all. And then they also call out that at the time, JFK was he fired loads. The CIA at the time were interfering in lots of other countries' elections and things like that, and they were trying to put pro-US people.
It was very that kind of what we would now associate with the sort of Putin approach to politics, it was social media, that kind of thing.
A bit Illuminati, wasn't it, where they're kind of trying to control what was happening. And I think JFK didn't like that, so he kind of fired people and annoyed them. But then also...
Was there not some link with the mafia at some point as well?
His brother,
yes.
I'm sure, wasn't his brother the Attorney General?
Yes.
And my knowledge of US is a bit weak, but so I think his brother was the Attorney General, and he was waging war on the mafia. Yeah. So there were a lot of people that didn't like him and didn't like them, and not least the CIA. Because the CIA had been put in there.
Who were a government agency, and therefore
and the FBI as well. So there was a lot of kind of bad blood.
Because he was challenging that. The way they were doing their work. Yeah.
And I kind of think that this is what humans. This is one of the positive things about conspiracy theories is that the government put out a kind of a.
But to tie it back to the first conspiracy theory, he was responsible pretty much for the lunar landings.
The moon, he was brilliant. We're going to do it, and then he did it.
We're going to the moon,
which was great.
But it was after he died.
Yes,
I think
he didn't.
Not
well,
far,
it was
1967.
69.
When he died, though, was it 67? Or 69 when the lunar landings happened?
Earlier than that.
Oh, was it?
Right, I don't know. Or something. Right,
okay.
But yeah, so but the
Beatles.
The Beatles.
Yeah, about that time.
The bit that I think is really powerful about this is that the government of the time put out these reports and this stuff that was clearly like whitewashed. It was clearly missing stuff, and it clearly was, a little bit opaque and hadn't got the detail in there.
So where there were gaps,
and so people have just filled them, right? And I think this is where the conspiracy theory stuff I think is brilliant. It's kind of human. It's just holding people to account, and I think that's got to be a good thing. It can't be a bad thing, right? To say, hang on a minute, that doesn't sound very believable.
Aliens.
That would have been so cool if in the CIA report it just went like, well, it was just such a good shot, it must have been aliens. And then a picture of Craig Charles. So anyway, the JFK one for me that's almost the most believable. Likely one. I'm not saying I believe that there was a second shooter or anything like that. I think I just kind of feel that there's some
there are holes in it,
some unanswered questions.
But going back to your idea about the authority thing, and this kind of assassination stuff, and it's always someone in authority who wants them out, and the similar thing with the Diana thing, with the Queen and all these sort of things that people do. Same thing though, isn't it?
We didn't talk. Yeah, we should have done. Did you watch The Crown?
No.
the way they handled the Diana death episode was really. I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah,
it was really. It was. It was.
No,
really
I didn't watch any of that. No,
I was forced to watch it at gunpoint
by the second shooter,
by aliens. But yeah, anyway, yeah. The thing I think that kind of appeals to me about the JFK one is also the fact that everyone loved JFK at the time.
Yeah, so he was a celebrity. He was a celebrity president.
This wasn't a man like Bush who was vilified. Do you know what I mean? Like Linkin Park wrote a song about JFK about Bush. I just think.
So did Pink.
Oh yeah.
Hey, Mr. President. That
hey,
one.
Mr. Yeah. So, but yeah, he was loved by everybody. So unless it had been, I think if it had been like, oh God, who was the Beatle man? the Beatle man who got shot.
The Beatle man. Oh, John Lennon.
John Lennon.
Yeah.
So like he was shot by that dude.
Yeah.
And
not Lee Harvey Oswald.
Not Lee Harvey Oswald.
No.
But he was shot, right? And then the guy was just like, yeah, right, I did it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There was no attempt. It was just like, I did it.
Yeah.
And, he just wanted to be famous. For shooting somebody famous. And so, I don't know. I just can't help thinking that there was just something really weird with the JFK thing. And also, that nightclub owner shot Lee Harvey Oswald. And I'm like, well, what's going on about that?
Yeah.
If you were writing a story, that,
that's it, isn't it? And it's and I think sometimes one of the reasons that we create conspiracy theories is because with that authority idea as well, we want someone to be in control of the chaos. We want an Illuminati. We want a secret society. We want these things to exist because they explain the chaos. They explain. They know there's a reason for it. It's not just mad here. There's a plan. There's a kind of underlying order to things.
I think you might be right. I was reading.
That was one of the other things I wanted to say. So,
I was reading today, and I'm going to go off piste a little bit. So I'm going to do
my trick.
I'm going to do you thing, right? So one of the things I was reading this morning in bed, because it's Sunday and I didn't get out of bed very early today, so I was sitting there and I was reading on my iPad. And I was reading an article by Roger Penrose, who we talked about last week.
The shadow thingy.
Shadows of the Mind. And he
there's
is...
a thematic link. Shadows of the Moon, Shadows of the Mind.
Oh, Shadows of everything. He is proposing bringing back a theory about human consciousness, which is linked to quantum fields.
Nice. I like that.
And essentially what he's suggesting is that consciousness is this kind of shared thing,
the shared story, shared reality.
So he said, if you imagine consciousness as a wave, right? So it's this kind of conscious wave, and it goes through the universe, or let's say it goes through our universe, and the human brain latches on to that. So you've got kind of free thought and free will, but actually you're kind of all part of this consciousness thing. And it's to do with quantum states and quantum entanglement and the human brain. They talk about these, what he thinks or what they're proposing. It's been around for a long time.
It's the collective consciousness idea,
kind of coming back again. There are these kind of tiny little tubules, like protein tubules in the brain that resonate and can connect with the
the collective consciousness.
Now
quantum.
What's really amazing is they can do this in a lab. They're pretty confident that they can kind of show this kind of link to the quantum states. But it has to be like really, really cold. And obviously the human brain's not really, really cold.
Right, okay.
So that's why it got debunked way back. It didn't talk about what they're doing, but there's more research and more belief in this theoretical physics and a bunch of other stuff, which is...
I really like this. This is like my underlying order of the universe theory. Like I like the collective consciousness and I think the reality, the projection of reality through the shared imagining of what the reality is, and I love all that. I think that's wicked.
Do you know, I one of the things I really like about it though is the it's attempting to make sense of the chaos, right? And so mathematics, chaos theory in mathematics is all about probability and statistics. And one of the things that I really like about it is that you can con humans so easily with probability and statistics. We just can't cope. We can't cope with, if the weather forecast tomorrow says 51% rain or 49% rain, we can't make sense of that. We're like, what does that mean? Is that going to rain or not?
Yeah.
And it's the same is true for these conspiracy theories. Right?
Yeah.
If the JFK thing's fascinating, right? So really popular president gets shot by some random dude who's not related to the CIA, not related to any of these foreign governments, not it's not like a state sponsored hit.
Yeah.
And then all the evidence gets swished away and gets disappeared.
Yeah.
The bullet things don't quite match.
Yeah.
And then the probabilities of those things is so far out. It can't possibly have happened. It must have been aliens. Right? Whereas the reality is it could. Totally, all of that stuff could be completely true. It's just less probable.
Yeah.
It's kind of Occam's razor. The most probable thing is likely.
What is Occam's razor? That's the third time in the last 2 or 3 days I've heard the phrase Occam's razor, and I don't understand Occam's razor.
Occam's razor is a really simple thing. It comes from medicine, and it basically states that the most likely outcome is probably true.
Right. Okay.
Right. So if we talked about pyramids.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give you two outcomes, right? So the two outcomes for the pyramids, one is that they were beautifully made, perfectly aligned to the kind of the orientation of the Earth. Yeah. Everything was beautifully made.
Constellations, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, all of that stuff was done. Yeah. So aliens did it.
Yeah.
Or that they just absolutely believed in the gods of the time and
wanted to do a good job
wanted to do the best job, and they believed that whatever they were doing meant something and mattered to them, right? So they did that, and these guys just and girls just absolutely went for it, right? And so like for me, Occam's razor there probably suggests not aliens, because I think the likelihood of it being aliens, they'd still be here, or we'd still see evidence or whatever, right? And there just isn't any. So
you need to watch some more Graham Hancock. That's what you need to do.
But that's what Occam's razor. Occam's razor is the most probable, the most likely outcome. It's all to do with differential analytics. It's about you've got a problem. You look at, in theory, you're supposed to look at all of the different potentials, and then you kind of stack rank them, and you kind of go, which one is the most probable? Right, that's the one we'll go for.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But it gets misused all the time. People say, "Oh, it's the simplest," or it's whatever.
Yes. But it's the most probable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
most likely.
Yeah. So anyway, I the JFK one for me, I think is most likely of the conspiracies we looked at. But we've got two more to look at.
Yeah.
So we looked at flat Earth.
Yeah. Amazing. Unbelievable, this.
It's phenomenal, isn't it? The flat Earth is the fact that...
But it's because it's so recent as well. And it's emerged from this kind of... something I really struggle with in the world at the minute is people talking to camera as if they're addressing a group of people. Hi guys.
Yeah, hi guys.
I can't deal with it. I really struggle with it.
Hi guys.
If anything happens with that on it, I turn it off immediately. I don't know why.
It's bonkers, isn't it?
This flat Earth thing seems to have come around at the same time as this people addressing. And another point that I wanted to make is that I think that a good reason that so many people fall for conspiracies is this. Do you remember when you were younger?
Yeah.
And you went to the pub?
Yeah.
And you had a mate?
Yeah.
Who was really, really passionate?
Yeah, yeah.
And really, really exciting?
Yeah.
And really admirable?
Yeah.
And was almost like the sort of unwritten leader.
Right. Yeah.
So they're the person that holds court.
Yeah.
They're the person who, the kind of vibe of the night is based around them.
Right.
Right. And everyone's got one of those mates. Everyone's got a mate. That's kind of, they're the kind of unspoken leader of that particular tribe. Yeah. Right. So then you get the people that talk to the camera.
That's YouTube, isn't it?
Who are also really admirable and have these great characteristics and all of that.
Yeah.
And even if your mate who's got these skills is making a really bad call,
it's nuts. Yeah,
everyone's like, oh yeah.
Want to be in the gang?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that the flat Earth movement comes from the celebrity culture involved in that kind of thing, and people looking up to the person who has those charismatic qualities. That's what I'm getting at. Is they follow the charisma, they follow the ability to do that, and the likes and the followers. And if they assign themselves to those people, they all of a sudden become part of their tribe and a follower of them. And look, I'm part of this popular group.
Yeah. I struggle with Flat Earth quite a lot. There's some of my favourite things have happened in the Flat Earth group. I love the guy who basically said, I'm so confident that the Earth is flat, and built himself a steam rocket, and then launched himself so far into and then killed himself. I liked that one. That one I really enjoyed.
Darwin Award, that is.
It was just. I mean, you just remember, what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah.
You're going to launch yourself really high in the. I mean, Newton solved this a long. You're going to go really high up there, and then you're going to, whether it's flat or not, you're coming down. So anyway, I liked that one, and I liked the guy, the guy who took a spirit level on a plane, and then took a picture of it on the plane and went, proof it's flat. I'm like, what? What's flat?
Newton's cracked this one, mate. You want to go and have a look at Newton?
What are you doing? And then
spirit level.
And then I just particularly like that one. And then it's the way they do physics. I mean, the problem is they're quite clearly not. I mean, the high school physics and maths students, that's kind of where they're up to.
Yeah.
And you think this is not, you misuse. So then they start to misuse other formulas and other mathematics, and it's comical when you look at it.
Yeah.
But because it looks complicated, it's like, oh, that's really believable because somebody's differentiated something. That's or they've done an integral. That must be true. So I think that's mad. But then it's the lengths they go to explain like weird stuff. So they decided there's an ice wall around the outside, and all of this stuff is like it is.
White Walkers beyond that,
and then gravity.
You haven't seen that, have you?
What,
the Game of Thrones?
No, not seen that.
So you won't know about the White Walkers.
Don't know about that. I will watch it. I might watch it this week in the Dublin. But I love the fact that they solve gravity.
Yeah.
So gravity. Gravity is obviously really interesting, and it's 9.8 meters per second, right? That's the acceleration that's applied on everything for the Earth.
Is it? I didn't know that.
The Earth, right?
Yeah.
The way they solve that is they say that the flat Earth disk is constantly moving up.
Right. Okay.
So that's where we get that.
That's
from.
where that comes from.
And there are other things that are just bonkers. So, like, if you see a ship sailing away from you, it disappears from the bottom up.
Right.
Well, so the bottom of the ship disappears before the top, which can only happen if it's curving away from you.
Yeah.
Things like eclipses. So if there's an eclipse, if it was a flat body, you would see a straight edge at some point, right? You would see a straight edge, and there's never been any evidence of there being a straight edge. And there's just so many cases of of things that you can measure and you can see that prove that it's not flat, but they still
can they do the thing where they send them up in the the planes that go dead high.
I
thought I'd send them up in one of them and go, look at this.
I don't. It's just it's fake, isn't it? Are you faking? It's just
it's just screens on the windows.
Well, all they do is they say things like, it's a projection.
Yeah.
And you're like, you can't do much about that. And for me, that it's getting into faith, isn't it? It's getting into this faith thing where it's like, no, you're just trying to trick me. Do you know what I mean? You're trying to trick my faith is stronger.
That's a huge aspect of self-obsession with that, isn't there?
There must be.
There really is. The world revolves around me. That my perception of the world and all. That's quite problematic, isn't it?
There are so many of them on the.
Doesn't revolve. Sorry, that implied it's spherical.
Did you remember the Flat Earth group on Facebook? It says members from all around the
globe. Yeah,
that one I really liked. And then, one of my favourite Facebook groups. I've got two favourite Facebook groups at the moment. One of them is about people that wear dry robes.
That's a new thing.
I'm getting obsessed. I don't have a dry robe.
I've got one.
How do you?
Yeah.
I'm getting obsessed with it. It's such a cool group. It's really funny. And then the second one is the Doormans group.
Yeah. What is that? You've mentioned that a few times.
You just have to join it.
Is it Weldon?
No, you just join it.
Okay.
It's people who do things like have a spreadsheet for every time they fill their car up with petrol and calculate the miles per gallon, or
so it's like you and your home app.
Yeah, or it's people that like it's people will just post things on there where they just talk about different types of screws or arranging like coffee drawers.
Well, that's brilliant though, isn't it? Because that's people who are into stuff.
So good.
Yeah.
There's like 1.2 million people in it. It's amazing. But that group's fascinating because if you ever poke at Flat Earth in there, at least 100 people will
Really?
kind of comment on you and give you a kick in and tell you
because
why
they've got a spreadsheet about it.
Why it is flat. And Flat Earth to me is one of the scary ones. And the reason it's really scary is it highlights the lack of focus in STEM in schools.
Yeah.
Because if these flat earthers had been, punched in the face for 10 years like I was about mathematics, you wouldn't believe the earth was flat. You just wouldn't believe it, because you'd have the tools to go and prove it, right? And if somebody spouted some nonsense physics online, you speak the language of mathematics, and you can say that is nonsense. Here's why it's nonsense, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that this is a problem of education, and that scares me a little bit, that somebody with, year 10, so like you're dealing with an 11-year, probably actually year 6, so like a 10-year-old would have that's the level of maths and physics that they're using to con people, and the fact that people can't see through it, I think that makes me quite sad. Like a lot of this stuff is really, the guy who killed himself in the rocket, I loved that because he was mental. But
it's sad that happened because of the lack of education and the lack of understanding of the world.
I just think it's just this thing, and I think it's a combination, like you said, of the whole this tribal thing and believing in things, and so all of that upsets me massively. But that is going to bring us to my absolute favorite, and that's Birds
Aren't Real. Yeah.
Which I love. Ever since I first saw this, and I think it was like 2021 or 2022, they came out and said it was all fake. But it was amazing the number of people that really bought into it during that time.
My thing with it was the people that even after they said that it was fake, then came through and said,
"You would say that,
yeah. You would say that.
You've been bought out by big poultry, big
massive chicken,
big poultry have got you on their payroll,
big poultry."
But it is.
That's amazing.
But it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
He did a brilliant TED talk about it, and just essentially talking about how.
So the idea is, because people might not know this, it's the idea is that like birds aren't real, but they're actually like little robots, and they're government spies, and so they're like artificial things.
It was a project that they came up with, this idea that they were going to kind of live in character for a couple of years. They were going to go to a bunch of events, and they were going to try and convince.
The van was brilliant, or the car.
That's it. They were going to try and convince. It was all about convincing the press. They wanted to initially. They wanted to see how difficult it would be to convince the press to run a story to say birds aren't real. And it was this idea that the government had killed like 15 million birds or whatever, replaced them with drones, and they charged up on power lines, and then to track you, it would be like bird poop on their thing. Do you know what I mean? And I just kind of thought, but it's so believable. It's very kind of, do you know what I mean? It was delivered in a kind of.
It's very well done, isn't it?
It is
very, very well done.
And I really liked the way they did it. But then, like you said, when they finally came out and said, actually,
we made all this.
We made it all up. The people were like, no,
you didn't. They aren't real. And then there's probably now still a subgroup of people that have carried on the thing, and that's their belief system now. And birds definitely aren't real.
It is bonkers, isn't it? But I do. That's a T-shirt I could wear. I could wear birds aren't real.
I think one of the best examples of this. This is me slightly tangenting now, and it's it's got a brilliant name, and it's a brilliant story. And I might have spoke about this before, but it's the organization that have set up the mythological stories about the nuclear waste and like the A-bomb stuff. And their sole mission is to create the myth. So that in post-apocalyptic times, when everything dies, people don't go and muck about with nuclear waste. So the idea is they've created the story, they've created the myth. That there's like a god that lives under the ground here, and you don't disturb him, and
What?
all this sort of stuff. Yeah. You have to worship this and keep away from this area of the world. Don't dig this up, and all this sort of like. I'll send you the link in a bit. It's fascinating, but they've created this whole mythology around the sites.
Don't play with the nuclear waste.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, and I can't remember what the name is, but it's brilliant. It is brilliant. I want a T-shirt with it on because it says
Putin's going to send it over, isn't he?
Is he?
He's going to deliver it.
Is he?
He's going to post it. He's going to post the nuclear waste to us.
I must find the grid. It's absolutely brilliant, like what they're doing. But it's that creating the narrative. To influence a behaviour.
Yeah.
Because that's what humans do. Because once they've got the story, their behaviours change, their understanding, their belief systems, all that sort of stuff.
It's pretty easy. You can't tell them about nuclear energy and high energy particles. You can't tell them about that.
No.
Big scary god alien underground.
Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah. Don't go near it. Yeah.
Don't go near
stay away.
Don't go near the big scary thing.
Yeah.
That was good. I've really enjoyed conspiracy theories. It's been good.
Yeah.
I watched the videos with my 2 boys today. And we had a really good giggle, and it was great. We learned about JFK.
Yeah,
didn't know anything about that. It was brilliant watching them. Because some of those documentaries we watched, they kind of present themselves as being factual, and then it kind of digs into it. And I really enjoyed that. You could see the boys' faces were kind of like, oh. I mean, you could see that gullible in that they bought into it. Both of them have bought into it in the first 10 minutes. This is real.
Switches.
Aliens are coming, and then I was a bit of a dickhead. And I really enjoyed that. But I wanted to say something at the end, and it is about this that human nature, and I think this is kind of what I don't know, unless Putin blows us all up, right? I think this is one of the reasons why society and civilization kind of progresses. I kind of think of it like a relief valve, or like this kind of self-controlling mechanism, right? Where almost whatever governments or those in control, those kind of in leadership positions, whatever they do, there is a bunch of people that will just believe them, right? They go, the whole sheep, and they're just going to believe anything. And I love the fact that there are these people out there that will hold people to account. Now, some of them are nut jobs and are going to, always going to leap to conclusions. But I kind of like that fact checking.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? For me, it's kind of quite reassuring that there are people out there that are not just accepting stuff and are going to hold you to account. So, you and I think this is probably a message to politicians. Yeah. That if you want to be believed by people, you need to be transparent, you need to be honest, you need to be genuine. Because in today's society, there's so many tools available to kind of check you and hold you to account. You kind of can't get away
all
with
over people's eyes anymore.
No, and the JFK thing,
and spin things and that.
The one thing that JFK conspiracy told me was, I mean, there might not be that. It may be that it was just Lee Harvey Oswald. Right? It's one dude, but the conspiracy theory there came out of the fact that there was so much data being withheld and opaqueness and lack of transparency. But we always try and end on a bit of a positive, but I do genuinely think that that's a positive thing, that there are these like sad, dull people out there that
pick everything apart.
They're looking for, they're always looking for holes and things. And so it makes me a bit, that actually if something did happen, if something, somebody would pick it up, and then and then they'd get some more people, and then they get some more, and then eventually a grown-up who could do maths would tell them they were idiots, or actually go, do you know what, this has got something behind it. Do you know what I mean? And I kind of like that. I kind of get the feeling that, let's say there was an alien signal from somewhere that somebody heard, and then someone tried to cover it up. I kind of think actually that
someone would pick that up.
I don't think I don't think you get away with it these days. I think that I think that's I think it would work its way out eventually. So I think conspiracy theories are good fun. I think you shouldn't buy into them too much, but I do quite like the people that do them. And with that, shall we do one?
Let's do one.
See you next week.
Ta-ra.
Thank you for listening to Hopeland. If you enjoyed the show, you can A. Subscribe on your favorite podcast service. B. Leave a nice review. C. Tell a friend or two. Turning off microphones. Presenters back in cold storage, where they belong.